What is up, you guys? We're here for our weekly anchor message where we are getting our spiritual lessons and assignments for the week. Hope you're doing well. I am a tired little baby. This weekend at work really kicked my butt. Really toasted my buns. I'm really tired and everything hurts. So I'm going to try to stay clear-headed through this message. All right, so I'm going to take you through the cards. Then I will let you guys listen to the audio. So from the Wild Unknown Archetypes, we have the Village revisiting us again. Back from last week, or maybe it was the week before last. Then we have the Eternal Child. And we have the Medallion. Underneath the Village, we have the Page of Swords. Underneath Eternal Child, we have the Feminine King of Pentacles. Remember, in the Mystical Moments Tarot, there is the classical Feminine Queen, the traditional Masculine King, and then there is an additional card, the Feminine King. And that is, to me, I've been reading this as representing the self-mastered aspects of the feminine aspects of the suit and the masculine aspects of the suit brought into like temperance and integration. And so then it's like bringing that divine masculine and feminine energy together. Underneath Medallion, we have Two of Swords. All right, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to let y'all listen to the audio and we'll be right back. We are revisited again with the archetypal theme of the village. The village is our roots, our family history, the community culture that we were shaped by. It's where we came from and where and even when we came of age. The village is responsible for much of our conscious and unconscious belief systems. In order to awaken and reveal the true light of our soul, we are called at various times to leave the village, to go on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual awakening. This takes our consciousness to a new and greater, more expansive place than we have ever known before. This particular quest is centered around having a teachable mind and inquisitive enthusiasm. Our perspective is what has the greatest influence in shaping our experience of life. We have made great strides to heal and reparent our inner child. It's like our inner child is the one on the hero's journey this time, and we are like the higher self, stewarding that child along the path of initiation. We're going back into the past to recapture the sparks of light lost in childhood and reclaiming them now. We see that our life path uniquely prepared us for something particular that we've had in our hearts since childhood. How you choose to perceive your experiences will determine whether or not they are blessings or curses. For as far back into my earliest childhood that I can remember, I've looked up into the night sky and fixated on what I'd later learn was called cosmology. I'm a natural intuitive empath, and life has taken me down many fiery paths of initiation. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. This is why I make this content. This is why I teach what I teach and study what I study. What is that thing for you? All right, so the hero's journey has been a theme in our imagery over the last few weeks. And I am feeling like we're here in the village and we have the eternal child next to the village. This reading feels to me almost like Back to the Future in a way. It's like we are being called again out of the village, but this time it's like we're going back and reflecting on our coming of age in our childhood as we were growing up. We were forced to leave the village as young children, right? And into our, onto our path of self-discovery. And sometimes, and many times, that is prompted in like these unexpected ways that weren't really when we were prepared to go on these adventures, leaving the village. What is leaving the village? Leaving the village doesn't even necessarily mean that you leave where you are. So let's talk about what is the village. The village is the environment that we grew up in. It's our family, it's our friends, it's our immediate community. It's the culture that shaped our belief systems and our subconscious assumptions even. This is the environment that nurtured our mindset and our values, what we perceive is possible for us, how grand of a vision we allow ourselves to have. This is like sets our mindset, right? And so anytime the hero, and if you guys have never read any of Joseph Campbell's work, he talks about the archetypal story of the hero's journey. And it is present in every great story, from literature to film to whatever have you. It's always there. It's always present because that is the truth of the human soul. We are called out of our comfort zone, and not everyone is the hero, right? People who have a particular calling, people who have been awakened, people who have, a certain mission in life, they get called to leave the village, but not everyone gets called to leave the village, or maybe everyone gets the call, but not everyone answers the call to leave the village. So few answer that call, and they go on an adventure, and they get outside of their comfort zone, and they do something different. And sometimes it is a challenge, right? They're invited on. Like, do you remember the movie Romancing the Stone? This is one of my favorite 80s movies. Kathleen Turner is a sort of shut-in bookworm. She's a romance novel writer, and she doesn't have a lot of real-life adventures. She has a pretty safe a life in a luxurious city apartment. And her sister, like one day she gets a letter from her sister, and her sister is living in South America, and she gets caught up in some weird, crazy crime scheme where she gets kidnapped. And so Kathleen Turner has to go down to Cartagena to find her sister and to handle the ransom and all this stuff. And so she's trying to travel there on her own, and she's just this like city lady, and the everything turns upside down, and the bus gets into a wreck, and so she has to figure out her travel plans in the middle of the jungle. And then she happens upon this rogue wanderer in the wilderness, Michael Douglas, and he's like one of those sort of badasses for hire, classic. And so she talks him into helping her find her way to the next city and take care of her business in exchange for money or whatever. So, sometimes it is a call to adventure that's not exactly something that you set out for, that you're going after this like goal. Sometimes it is of necessity, right? It's something that you have to go handle, right? And so think about the times in our life where we are called into stepping into the unknown and taking on a challenge, or stretching ourselves to go after something that is outside of our wheelhouse, right? And we stretch ourselves, and through that experience, it is a vehicle to personal growth and the expansion of our soul and the expansion of our consciousness and evolution, right? And our growth and our healing and our becoming. So it is a path to self-discovery and self-mastery, or it can be if we are present and aware and appreciate what's happening when it's happening. Either way, life will have its way with you one way or another, right? So I think that this is like our reflection back right? When our inner child, even as small children, life introduced us to experiences that maybe called us on a hero's journey much earlier than maybe other people that we knew. Maybe, you had life dealt you harsh realities in an early childhood, and you sort of grew up faster than the people around you. And so maybe your spiritual awakening started happening gradually, but early on. And so I think that there is something that is sort of like, because we have the medallion here. So it's like there's something about this rite of passage that's connected with our eternal child. And so I think that there is a gift within us, something that we're interested in, something that is a talent that we have, or a gift, or a particular essence about us that is special to us. And it's built into like a purpose that we have. And I think that life has given us these initiative experiences to initiate us through trial by fire, going out over and over and over again from the village, or, out into the world, to prepare us through a series of initiations for whatever this gift was, this interest was, something that has been with us since early childhood. And maybe it's been dormant, or maybe it's been put on the shelf or whatever, but I think it's resurfacing. For me, and I explained this in the audio, I was always preoccupied with Genesis, the book of Genesis, and the creation of the universe and existence, and what is outside of existence. And there's got to be so much more to Genesis than we're reading. Like, this can't be the only text on this. I was like really prodding and probing the logos, even at as young as I can remember. I would like lay in the yard at night, and when I would get to go outside, and when it was dark, and I would lay up at the stars, look up at the stars, and I would think, like, I would try to stretch my mind to understand the edge of reality and what would be beyond it. And so I would try to bring these things up to the adults in my life and ask questions at church. And everybody just thought I was like this weird kid. It was unrelatable. It was alien, weird child. And nobody knew what I was talking about. And they thought I was being rebellious. They thought I was questioning God. But really, I was just like, I should have been in the rabbinical schools. I was like, I should have been having conversations with rabbis. I would have been with my people, and things would have been more in context. But as I grew up and throughout my life, my family was riddled with chaos and crisis. And I was never like a destructive, rebellious kid growing up, or teenager, adolescent. I was pretty good and tried to be my best and do my best. But I was still riddled with chaos and riddled with difficult, painful, seemingly unfair experiences. And it felt to me like I was being tortured or punished or cursed, and I didn't understand why. Why was my life so much harder than anyone that I knew? And why could I not get away with the slightest mistake, or without it seeming like there was some sort of cosmic punishment attached to it? And it was just like there was always such an extreme effect, and I didn't know why. It felt like I was just followed by this influence. And now when I'm considering, okay, I am here to help other people understand the context of their life experiences and how it relates to the awakening of their soul and the growth and the healing of their soul. And so when we put those things together, oh wow, everything makes more sense now. And so I have a particular talent for being intuitive and insightful and empathic, and these things all played in, and then like my interest in like scripture and ancient wisdom and the mysteries and all of it all makes sense now, because everything that I love doing and everything that I'm naturally gifted at it's all part of this way that I minister to people, right? But I had to go back and do a lot of inner child healing because the people in my life, the people in the village, do not understand what I'm doing, and they do not agree with it. And they thought for a long time that I was completely wayward and demon possessed and, on the dark path. And I think gradually over the years, they've sort of figured out that that's not really the case, but they still don't know quite what to make of it because they won't have conversations. They're not open-minded. They won't hear of it. They can't hear the fact that like there is kosher astrology. Like it's not all like sorcery. It's like the tools and the universal spiritual laws are the laws, and the way that we use them determines whether or not we're using them in a kosher way, right? So we don't want to use things like this to predict every moment and try to control our life. But what we do want to use it for is to go through the spiritual awakening and go deeper into the themes of our soul and our assignments for our soul in this life and the ways that we need to heal and correct. For those purposes, then yes. But like for like energetically spying on people and trying to like control the aspects happening and playing out your life, like that is, that's not kosher, whereas using it for spiritual growth is actually what it should be used for. So the village doesn't get the hero. Once the hero leaves the village and they come back, they've been through an experience that the village hasn't had. And so the village doesn't have that perspective that the hero has. So some people in the village will be fascinated by the hero and they'll want to learn from the hero and they'll want to hear the stories, and they might even go on an adventure with the hero. Some people just want to hear about it, and some people don't want anything to do with the hero. They're wary of the hero after that, or they feel like the hero thinks that they're big shit because they left the village, and they don't want people to leave the village. Everybody has their own mindset in the village, but the point of leaving the village is to get out of that mindset, to rise above the limiting beliefs that were implanted on us, the ideologies that were implanted in us, so that we can learn and witness and have the truth and the light revealed for us firsthand, so that we can experience that. So the village is, when we leave the village, it's like we develop or we expand our consciousness so that we can rise above our born station, right? We may never, if we don't leave the village, we may never earn past what our immediate family earned, in the example set, right? Some people can't achieve something beyond what they've seen as possible. And so we leave the village. Where are we here? Okay, so leaving the village as the Page of Swords. And so there's these youthful characters here. And so the Page of Swords is think of the pages as like students, or they're messengers, but they're also young, inquisitive, energetic, kind of novices, wet behind the ears. They're not experts yet, but they've got a teachable mind, right? So we need to recapture the sparks of light that were lost in childhood when, I was turned away and said, I shouldn't question God. Don't, you just take it for what it is. You know what I mean? Like when I was put down and blown off, right? That made me put those interests into my shadow. Every time people told me, that I was, getting into evil things, and it would make me second guess and want to put these things in my shadow. And it's like, no, obviously, yes, there are people who are into dark things and dark arts, but I could distinguish the difference between them, and they were generalizing it. So what was it for you? Maybe you were, maybe you grew up in a household with a macho obsessed father who didn't want their their child doing unpractical things. No, you can't go to art school. Boys don't join the ballet. You know, maybe they wanted to hold you back, or they put you down for something that innocently as a child lit you up. And like, it was like your soul being expressed unencumbered. But so something got, like, there was a light that was put under a bushel basket in our childhood, so to speak. And so I think that we are reclaiming those sparks now of the light that we lost, or the light that was set aside at that time, kind of taken from us and hidden. So we're recapturing those. So I think we need to keep an open mind and a teachable mind. And we're excited about, you know, okay, so this next chapter that's starting, we're going out of the village again into the unknown, into a new chapter. Let's be teachable. Let's be excited. Let's take it on as a sense of adventure, and do it from a place of enthusiasm and optimism and fun and adventure. So Michael Berg was talking about this past Shabbat, how this new year coming up has the numerical value of the name of God, that is the aspect of God when God is raining down judgment. So the judgment aspect of God, which is the harsher, more disciplinary, restrictive energy. And so this next year has the same numerical value as the word Elohim, which is the same energy as judgment. So this coming year, it's really, we're really going to have to approach it from an enthusiastic, inquisitive, adventurous mind. And our perspective of the year is going to have 100% effect on how we experience the year. So if we perceive the year as being negative, then it is going to continue to yield more chaos, because they were saying that the energy this year can be very extreme. And so it's either going to feel like a blessing or a curse, and our actual perspective can make the difference in that. So again, looking back on my life, whereas for a lot of my life, I felt cursed. And this is where we're with this Two of Swords here. It's that looking at, trying to weigh out, okay, am I choosing to look at this in a positive light? Am I choosing to look for the light in the situation? Or am I choosing to stay focused on the darkness of the situation? The Two of Swords. The choice is up to us. But if we don't make that choice, then our energy going back and forth is going to keep us stuck in a stalemate, right? So, and the medallion here, the talisman, is determined by our judgment call, our choice. And so when you look at something and say, okay, is this a blessing or a curse? If it's a blessing, then it's something that brings you closer to the Creator. And if it's a curse, then it's something that brings you further from the Creator. And so now looking back on my life, even what felt like living in a curse, I see now was actually blessing in disguise, because those experiences were the thing that made me so fiery and fervent about building a relationship with the Creator firsthand, healing myself so I wasn't continuously adding more chaos to my life, right? So now I see it as blessing. I've seen, there's people who have been blessed with lucky circumstances, who had things given to them easily, and they had everything they wanted and they had a comfortable life, but they had no concept of the things that we talk about. They don't have any relationship with the Creator. And so their life's comforts actually are a curse, because they haven't had the opportunity to have that awakening, to have any reason to desire to have a spiritual practice. Why would they? That would get in the way of watching football, right? So it's like the people that win the lottery, but they're not healed with money and self-worth. And so the money ends up like ruining them, right? Because they weren't ready to handle that kind of energy. So this year, the energy is going to be intense. and our outlook on what's happening and our ability to choose the way that we show up and interact with this energy and participate in it is going to determine whether or not we are blessed this coming year, or we are cursed this coming year. So developing that mindset to be able to look for the light in things. Remember, we talk about this. It's like being face to face with the Creator means that you can see the Creator, the Creator is present in all things, and you can see that the Creator can be activated and moving through the situation. Looking at the Creator's back means that you realize how God was working in a situation, but not until after the fact, not until you've had time to reflect. And in hindsight, you can see, like the example I've been giving with myself, looking back on life, I can see where God had moved through. So it's like you're catching God right as he's leaving the house, right? Whereas now, currently in my life, I am more practiced at being present enough to realize pretty quick within the game, oh, the Creator's involved in this. There's no accident. There's a reason why my table is acting like this, or because there's a reason why this event happened today, or there's a reason I got detoured in that other direction and that place was closed, right? There was one time I went to get my car, like the diagnostic thing run at like an AutoZone, and I had to go to like 3 places in my area because each place, like their machine thingy wasn't working. And there was something that felt really wrong with my car. And it was like, I felt like it was going to be really expensive. And I got to the last place. They had the diagnostic. As the guy was plugging it in, we just got to talking, and he was telling me that he was messed up over a girl who was also talking to this dude in prison. And I was like, guy, you got to give that girl away, because she's going to be taking your money and giving it to that guy's money in jail. And he was like, that's already what's happening. And I was like, see, you got to cut yourself off. This is going to send you down a bad road, and you don't want that, and you don't deserve it. And it's like, I was sent there. And he goes, oh, thank you so much. Like, you're so appreciative. He was like, this confirms it for me. I can't believe it. I was like, this was so meant to happen, because he was like, there's nothing wrong with your car. And then when I turned on the car, it was like the problem that was happening was completely gone. Right? So I realized, oh, okay, I was literally just sent here for you. Right? And so when we can see those moments when we're in them, that's what really turns on and activates God in those moments. And it's like we get into that miraculous like flow. So being that Page of Swords who's willing to dive in and do the work and look and probe deep into the scenario. What does this really mean? What's underneath this? Where does this belief come from? Where does this perception or mindset come from that I have right now, right? I'm being asked to move beyond that because we're moving into a next level. And we can only expand as high and elevate as high as our consciousness will allow for. So our consciousness has us leaving the village and recapturing something from childhood, something special. And so another thing we've been doing with our inner child is we've been reparenting the inner child. This is how I'm reading this feminine king card, because the Pentacles is all about our material life and being a functional person in the world. Taking good care of our body, our health, taking good care of our household and our finances, being able to function in the world and just be like a proactive member of your family and community. And so if we have a traumatized inner child, we have a dysregulated nervous system a lot of the time. And we don't even realize that we are a lot of times meeting life and operating through life with these low-level trauma responses. And so childhood trauma is on a spectrum. I mean, some people had extreme cases of abuse or like being in an accident or in a tragedy or in some kind of crazy thing. But like others of us were just maybe shamed or made fun of a little bit by people who didn't realize they were doing the damage that they were doing. Scolded for things that we shouldn't have been scolded for. There's different levels, but basically when trauma occurs, it is when you have a situation that is it's overwhelming and you don't have the resources to handle it. There's different types of trauma. There's financial trauma. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in the kind of financial dire straits where like you get a flat tire and you're just like, oh my God, this is gonna do me and this is gonna be my undoing. I'm ruined. Like, it's just like something small, like a flat tire. But like, depending on what your circumstances are and what your resources are, you may or may not be able to handle having a flat tire. And if you're already a traumatized person, just the flat tire happening is a scary enough situation, even with or without the financial implications involved, right? So, going through like a medical scare, or, there's all kinds of things that can leave you with this childhood trauma, because as children, we are so sensitive and we don't have contextual perspective yet. We don't have reason. And so when things happen that galvanize us as children, our little response systems, our ego, starts to form defense mechanisms. Better not do that again. Oh, I'll never say that again. Oh, don't ever tell them this, or never do that. Don't ever do that in front of anybody. Don't tell anybody you really like that. Like, hide your teddy bear. You don't want anybody to see your teddy bear. It's like things about like yourself you start hiding, you start developing these insecurities about, right? Because of things from your childhood. So there's all kinds of ways that our inner child can affect our adulthood. And if we let our inner child run the show, then we might notice some chaos in our life. Because if we have a traumatized inner child who's like controlling everything, then that child is actually stressed out and in terror, because our inner child, as a child, we want structure, we want someone else to be in charge, and we want someone to give us gentle, loving discipline to assure us that everything is not on our shoulders, that we're not the alpha, that we're not the ones in charge, right? Give a little structure, give, a routine, give the child consistency, resource the child, right? Well, we don't all get these things in our childhood. And so when we're adults and the inner child is, making the decisions, you can start to notice like, oh, I've got all kinds of bad habits. I'm not good with my finances. I'm impulse spending. I'm impulse shopping. Why? My inner child wants a treat. Give me the toy. I want that cereal. Like, can we take this home, right? That is what a child does. And what does the parent do? They say, no, not this week. We got a thing last week. Or you can pick out one small treat, but it has to be within these boundaries and means. We're not going to get everything, you know what I mean? Like there's limits, there's boundaries. So when we reparent our inner child, we have to act as the mother and father that we didn't have in those moments. And so, or we just need to fill in the gaps where our parents might have been lapsing in that moment, right? And so we have to be able to say, go to bed now, you're tired. Don't waste your resting hours by having not quality rest on the couch. Don't spoil your appetite and your health by eating all that junk food, right? If you want your dreams to come true, you have to set aside time and have a disciplined routine. Did you pick out a health insurance plan? You have to parent yourself, right? And so you'll notice that you're healing your inner child the more you are capable of giving your inner child the structure that you crave. It will make you feel more secure. It will make you feel more stable. And so it's the inner child that can't sit and focus, that doesn't have the discipline, and that wants to be erratic and go play when you should be doing your chores, and can't pay attention and doesn't follow through. So if you want the child to really thrive, we have to get the child in the car to go to the lesson, right? The child needs guidance and a little bit of rearing, right? So we have done so much work on healing and reparenting our inner child. And even when we're trying to set these like mundane good habits and break our mundane bad habits, like that is doing, that's a big deal. That's making big strides, and it's making an effort that will make a big difference in healing our inner child. Now, when our inner child can thrive, that's when we can really come up with great creative ideas, and we can find joy and playfulness. But we need the balance of both, because if we are all play and no work, then we start having this like low level anxiety and this existential dread that starts building, because we know that there's something important that we should be doing that we're not doing. So by giving your inner child more structure and discipline, you're actually liberating your inner child to flourish. And that's what I've been noticing too in my own life, is that the more I give myself a little bit of discipline and structure, it's like the more my life opens up and I'm able to do and be and experience more of the life enhancing things that I love. But if I don't have that discipline, then I end up burning valuable day hours, and I end up losing those windows, and I run out of time, and I don't get to do the things that I love. And so then it makes me feel even more bogged down, because I'm just doing the adult stuff and I'm not giving myself enough of like a window for the things that renew my soul and refill my tank and give me play and joy and fuel my creativity. So I think that's all for tonight. So just remember, through the week, it's about looking at something and not judging it, but choosing to find the way that you are perceiving things. I am choosing to look at this with eyes of love, and I'm looking for the positive. Now, we're not toxic positive and we don't bypass, but we are trans positive. We have transcended the positivity, and we are not stuck in that, right? Okay. Tired, starting to sound insane. All right, you guys, we will be back together tomorrow for our weekly manifestation oracle message. That may be tentative because my good friend at work, her birthday is tomorrow. And so I am going to meet up with people after the shift and join them for her birthday festivities. And it will probably be, everybody will be karaokeing by then. So if I come in and do a video, it'll be late. And if I don't make one, then have mercy on me. All right, y'all. See you tomorrow, hopefully. Peace.